Long ago, John Adetola was the kind of boy every girl noticed on campus. He wore smart clothes, always smelled nice, and drove a shiny black car his father gave him as a gift for his 18th birthday. But what made him truly stand out was his calm, respectful nature. He wasn't loud or rude like some of the other rich boys. He treated people kindly, whether it was a lecturer or the cleaner. His father, Chief Dapo Adetola, was one of the biggest business owners in the country. He owned construction companies, oil firms, real estate businesses, a private airline, and several schools. People called him the silent billionaire because he didn't show off, but his money spoke for him. He was close friends with ministers, governors, and even some past presidents. John's mother, Mrs. Remy Adetola, ran a chain of luxury diamond jewelry shops across Lagos, Abuja, and Dubai. She loved class, elegance, and high society gatherings. Her customers included first ladies, female senators, and famous actresses. Wherever she went, photographers followed. People respected her, but they also feared her sharp tongue. Then there was Fatima Musa. She wasn't rich or famous. Her father, Mr. Musa, was a humble schoolteacher who had taught for over 30 years in a small government school. He didn't have much money, but he had wisdom, books, and a deep love for learning. Her mother, Mama Binta, sold vegetables and groundnut oil in the local market. She used her profits to send Fatima and her siblings to school. Fatima grew up in a small house with thin walls, but her heart was big. She was kind to everyone, always helping friends with assignments, encouraging them when they failed exams, and sharing her little food when someone was hungry. John and Fatima met during a campus debate competition. John had spoken confidently, but it was Fatima who stole the show. Her words were clear, her voice steady, and her smile unforgettable. After the event, John walked up to her. "You were amazing," he said. Fatima laughed. "Thanks. You weren't bad yourself." That was the beginning. What started as simple greetings turned into long walks across campus, shared study sessions, and stolen glances during lectures. They became the best lovers on campus. By their final year, they were deeply in love. After graduation, they were posted to different states for NYSC. John served in Abuja with a government agency. Fatima served in Jos, working with a rural school. Distance only made their love stronger. Every night they talked on the phone, sometimes until midnight. When the year ended, John didn't waste time. He bought a ring on their Passoot day and knelt before her. "Fatima Musa," he said, "this year's with you has been the best of my life. Will you please marry me?" Out of excitement she screamed and said, "Yes," she whispered. He slipped the ring into her finger and she hugged him tightly. They were happy. John was excited, too excited to notice the warning signs. His parents had always controlled everything in his life, where he went to school, the kind of friends he had, even the clothes he wore. But he believed love was his choice to make. One Saturday afternoon, he dressed in a white shirt and navy trousers. He picked Fatima up in his car and drove her to Banana Island, where his parents lived in a huge white mansion with tall gates, bodyguards, and 2 lion statues at the entrance. Fatima was nervous. She had never been in a house this big. The floors inside sparkled like glass. The chandeliers looked like something out of a movie. Paintings hung on the walls, and soft music played in the background. John held her hand and smiled. "You'll be fine. Just be yourself." They walked into the living room. Mrs. Adetola stood up from a golden sofa. She was wearing a silk robe and diamond earrings that sparkled even in the daylight. She looked at Fatima from head to toe and smiled, a thin, fake smile that didn't touch her eyes. "You're welcome," she said sweetly. "Please have a seat." Fatima sat down and folded her hands in her lap. She tried to smile back, but her heart was racing. Mr. Adetola entered the room a few minutes later, dressed in native wear, He shook her hand politely and sat beside his wife. The conversation started softly. "What do your parents do?" Mrs. Adetola asked. "My father is a school teacher, and my mother sells at the market." "Oh, I see," she said, pretending to sip her tea. John did most of the talking. He told them how smart Fatima was, how she graduated top of her class, how she was kind and always helping others, but they didn't seem impressed. After a while, Mrs. Adetola said, "Thank you for visiting, dear. I'll have the driver drop you off." Fatima looked confused. "John said, Mum, she's staying over for the weekend." "Oh, I see. I just thought you might prefer to go back home after the introduction," she said, her tone sharp like a knife wrapped in velvet. Fatima stood up slowly. "Thank you, Ma." John took her inside to the guest room. When she left the sitting room, John returned to his parents. "She's the one I love. I want to marry her." "No," his mother said immediately. "I did not raise you to marry a girl with a market woman as a mother. I want someone who can walk with grace into political events. I want someone like Loveland Akinwunmi, the Prime Minister's daughter. She's classy, educated, beautiful, and her family can help your connections grow faster." "I don't care about politics," John said. "I care about peace. I found peace with Fatima." His father was silent for a long time. His mother continued, "This is not about love. This is about the family. Marrying her would stain our name. What do you think people will say when they hear our son married a vegetable seller's daughter?" John clenched his fists. "That our son followed his heart." That evening, John told Fatima everything. She didn't cry. She just stared at the floor. "I knew I didn't belong here," she said. "You belong with me," John whispered, holding her hand. "That's all that matters." It was Sunday morning. The smell of fried plantains filled the air as birds sang softly outside the mansion windows. Fatima had woken up early. She quietly made her way to the kitchen to help the housekeepers. She tied a scarf over her hair and began wiping down the counters. She peeled yams, arranged vegetables, and even washed some dishes. Her heart was full of hope. Maybe, just maybe, John's mother would begin to see that she was a good woman. Suddenly, the kitchen door swung open. It was Mrs. Adetola, dressed in a silk morning gown, her diamond necklace shining even under the kitchen lights. She stood by the door for a few seconds, watching Fatima. Fatima turned and smiled politely. "Good morning, Ma." Mrs. Adetola didn't smile back. She slowly walked toward her and folded her arms. "So this is what you're doing now," she said sharply. "Trying to act like a good little helper to win my heart." Fatima blinked in confusion. "No, Ma, I just thought—" "Save it," she snapped. "Let me tell you something very clearly. You are a poor village girl. You have no name, no class, no background. My son is not your type." Fatima's hands trembled. "You think cleaning my kitchen will make me accept you?" she continued, her voice rising. "You want to reap where you did not sow. You want to wear fine clothes, drive fine cars, and take pictures beside my son as his wife. Keep dreaming. Ma, I love John. I'm not here for— Love? Don't speak to me about love. Do you know how many women love him? Real women. Educated. Beautiful. Rich. Women who come from powerful homes. Do you know Loveland, the Prime Minister's daughter? She was raised to be a wife for men like my son." Tears gathered in Fatima's eyes, but she stood still. Mrs. Adetola stepped closer. "You will never be part of this family. Not today. Not ever." Fatima turned and walked out of the kitchen, her heart breaking into tiny pieces. She went outside to the garden and sat under a mango tree, breathing slowly, trying not to cry. The sky was bright, but everything around her felt dark. Just then, John found her. "Fatima," he said, kneeling beside her. "What happened?" Fatima wiped her eyes. "Your mother. She doesn't like me. She called me a poor girl. She said she can never accept me. And you didn't tell me she already arranged another woman for you. What am I doing here?" John's face was full of sadness. "Listen to me. I know this is hard, but I love you. Not Loveland. Not anyone else. You are the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with." Fatima looked into his eyes, smiling. The wedding happened 6 months later. Despite the protests, John stood firm. He and Fatima had a simple but beautiful ceremony. Fatima wore a white lace dress, her smile brighter than the sun. John looked at her like she was the only woman in the world, but not everyone smiled. Mrs. Adetola attended the wedding but never smiled all through the event. Mr. Adetola was happy for his son. John and Fatima moved into a private house gifted to them by John's father. Life was sweet at first. John managed his father's oil company. The couples took trips together and decorated the nursery room, expecting a baby soon. Then the months passed. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. No baby. Fatima tried to stay strong. She took vitamins, visited doctors, and prayed every single night. She avoided baby showers. She avoided questions. She avoided mirrors. Her friends started having children. Even her younger sister had a baby girl. Fatima would smile in public, but every night she cried silently into her pillow. John was supportive at first. "It's okay, love. God's time is the best," he would say. But by the 4th year, John was no longer smiling. He began staying out late. He stopped holding her hand in public. When people asked, "When are you giving us a baby?" he would sigh and say, "We're trying. God will give us children at the right time." But he looked tired. Mrs. Adetola made things worse. Every time she visited, she dropped hurtful comments. "So, still no baby? My friend's daughter already has twins. What are you doing all day?" She even said to Fatima's face one day, "You've wasted 4 years of my son's life. I told him you were a mistake." Fatima tried to speak, but the words didn't come out. She felt like a stranger in her own home. One evening, after dinner, John dropped a bomb. "My mother said we should try IVF with a donor egg, just to be sure the problem isn't from me." Fatima dropped her spoon. "Are you saying you don't trust me?" "I'm saying we need answers. We need children." Fatima stood up and walked into their bedroom. She stared at the mirror for a long time. "What kind of temptation is this?" she whispered. That night, she couldn't sleep. It was a cold morning. The rain had fallen all night. The house was quiet. Fatima sat alone on the bathroom floor, holding something small in her hands, a pregnancy test strip. This wasn't the first time. In fact, it was the 50th time. She had counted. Every single month for almost 5 years she had hoped, she had prayed, she had cried, and every time the test strip showed one line, negative. But today felt different. Her hands were shaking, her lips were dry. "Please, God," she whispered, "please, if you still see me, if you can hear me, just give me a child. I just want to carry my baby in my arms." She took a deep breath and looked down at the strip. 2 lines. She blinked, then looked again. 2 bold red lines. She screamed, loud. "Ah! Jesus Christ!" John, who was still in bed, jumped up and rushed into the bathroom. "Fatima, what's wrong?" She jumped into his arms, holding the test strip like a trophy. "I'm pregnant!" John was stunned. He stared at the strip, then at her, then at the strip again. "You're sure? Is this real?" "Yes, 2 lines. Finally." He held her tightly and began to cry. For the first time in months, they laughed, cried, kissed, and danced around the room like children. That evening, they called family. Everyone rejoiced. Everyone except one person, John's mother. They went to visit John's parents with the good news. Fatima wore a long red gown, her small belly just starting to show. John was beaming with pride. As they sat in the living room, John said, "Mum, Dad, Fatima is pregnant. God has answered our prayer." His father gave a smile. "Congratulations, my son. Congratulations, my daughter." His mother crossed her legs, looked at her nails and said, Well, her mates, who married 5 years ago, already have 3 children running around the house. But congratulations, I guess." Fatima's smile dropped. John stared at his mother in disbelief. "Mum!" But she stood up. "After 5 years, you are rejoicing when your mate already has 3 children." Fatima looked down at her lap, holding back tears. John took her hand gently. When they got back home, Fatima sat quietly on the bed, rubbing her belly. I don't care what she says, she whispered. You're my miracle. Every night after that, she spoke to the baby. Be strong, little one. My miracle. I will always love you. She even wrote songs for him, gentle lullabies from her heart. Sometimes she would sing to her belly.
Oh, my baby, going inside. You are my joy, you are my pride. 5 long years I cried and prayed. Now you're the answer God has made. Your heart is beating next to mine, a gift from heaven, pure and divine. I'll hold you soon, I'll kiss your face, wrapped in my arms, safe in my grace. Can't wait for you to see a love that you bring. My angel, my light, I dream of you each night. Kick if you hear me sing. You're my miracle, my everything. Grow strong, my child. Mama's waiting for you.
And the baby would kick like he was clapping along. 9 months passed, slowly, gently, beautifully. Fatima was now glowing. Her cheeks were round, her belly full, and her spirit strong. She took long walks every morning, singing softly to her unborn baby. Sometimes she would sit by the window and pray for him. Lord, let him be safe. I will love him forever. John, though still distant from his mother, became more cheerful. He touched Fatima's belly often and even painted the nursery blue. Then, on a quiet Saturday morning, it happened. Fatima felt sharp pain in her lower stomach. Her water broke. "John!" she screamed. John ran in, half-dressed, panicking. "It's time! Oh my God!" He grabbed the hospital bag and rushed her into the car. The driver sped through the roads as John held Fatima's hand, whispering, "Breathe. I'm here. Just hold on." After hours of labor, long, loud, painful hours, Fatima gave one final push. Then came the cry, a soft, sweet, angelic cry. The nurses paused. The doctor gently lifted the baby boy, and everyone in the room gasped. There was silence. Even Fatima, panting and sweating, sat up weakly. Why is everyone quiet?" she asked. "Let me see my baby." The nurse handed the baby to her. She looked down, and for a moment, she froze. Her baby was beautiful, but his head was huge, as round, shiny, and smooth as a large calabash pot. The size didn't match the rest of his tiny body. It rested heavily on his small shoulders. His eyes were kind and brown, his skin soft, and his fingers tiny, but his head was impossible to ignore. Fatima opened her mouth slightly in shock. What happened?" she whispered. The nurse gently said, "Madam, the baby is fine. He's breathing well. He's strong. But he may have a condition called macrocephaly. The head is very large." The baby cried again. Fatima heard the sound. It was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard, like music, like hope. She didn't care about his head anymore. She held him close, kissed his cheeks, and whispered, "You are mine. You are perfect, my beautiful Zion." Then the door opened. John walked in, excited. "How is he? Let me see him, my son." Fatima smiled, holding out the baby. John stepped forward, looked down, and his face changed. His mouth slowly opened. His eyes widened. He took a step back. "Jesus," he whispered. What is this?" Fatima's smile faded. "John," he pointed at the baby, trembling. What? What is this? What have you given birth to?" Fatima's lips trembled. "Don't say that. He's our son." John shook his head. "This can't be my child. Look at his head. His head is big, yes, but he's alive. He's healthy, and he's beautiful." John turned around and walked out. "Oh, my poor baby," Fatima said, holding him close. John ran to his mother. "Mum," he cried, "I should have listened to you. The baby, he's not normal." Mrs. Adetola held him and said, "Now you see, you married wrongly." "But what do I do?" he asked. "Don't worry, we will fix this. You're still young." John didn't return to the hospital again. He only came back home 3 days later, sitting quietly in the living room, while Fatima breastfed Zion in their bedroom. He didn't say a word, didn't look at the baby. He just sat there, lost in thought. His mother visited that weekend. She looked at the baby and shook her head. "I warned you," she said, her voice low and serious. "Now see what you've brought into this family." "Mum, please," John whispered. But she kept going. "This is your chance to fix everything. Lovely is still not married. She still asks about you. Take her as a second wife. Give yourself a clean restart. That thing in the room will never make you proud." John didn't respond. He just stood up and walked outside. Though John refused to marry another woman, he also refused to accept Zion. Whenever Fatima asked him to hold the baby, he would shake his head. "Number, I don't want to." Sometimes, Zion would crawl toward him in the living room. John would quietly get up and walk away. If the baby cried too loudly, John would cover his ears and yell, "Can you take him inside?" He blamed the child for everything. "This boy destroyed my life," he said once to Fatima. "I can't even take family photos. My colleagues laugh behind my back. People ask me what happened to my child." Fatima's eyes filled with tears. "Don't say that. He's just a child." "A strange child," John replied coldly. Fatima would take Zion in her arms, hug him tight and walk away, feeling like she had to protect her own son from the man who helped bring him into the world. By the time Zion turned 6, he was in school. A quiet boy, polite, always on time, always clean. But the children were cruel. They laughed at him during break time. They called him names like Big Buckethead or Drum Boy. Some would pretend to fall over when they saw him coming, acting as if the weight of his head knocked them down. During class games, they would secretly make jokes using him as examples. "Let's play the balloon game," one of them shouted one day. "Zion can be the balloon." Everyone laughed, just stood there watching them, just to hide the pain. But inside, he was breaking. When he got home, he would rush straight to his room, close the door, and bury his face in his pillow. Fatima would come in later to find him curled up in the corner. "Mummy," he whispered once, his voice shaking, "why was I born different?" Fatima knelt beside him, pulled him close, and kissed his forehead. "You are perfect, my boy. You are a miracle. You are loved. Don't let anyone make you feel less. Even Daddy doesn't love me." Fatima's heart shattered at those words. She hugged him tighter. "But I do. I love you with everything I am." Zion smiled softly through his tears. Zion was not just different in appearance. He was brilliant. He always came first in his class. His handwriting was the neatest. His math was flawless. His teachers always praised him during parents' meetings. But John never went. When Fatima tried to share his report card one evening, her face glowing with pride, John looked at it for 2 seconds, then waved his hand. "Please, I've had a long day. Don't spoil it." "But he scored 97 in mathematics." "I said leave it, Fatima." She quietly folded the paper and walked away, her heart heavy. Zion heard everything from the hallway. He went back to his room, closed the door, and opened his notebook. He wrote a poem with tears falling onto the page. "I am not ugly. I am just different. I am not a mistake. I am a gift. Even if no one claps for me, I will still shine." Zion walked through the university gate with quiet pride. He had made it. Against all odds, he was admitted into one of the best schools in the country, chosen to study computer science, a field that needed deep thinkers like him. His heart was full of hope. He told himself things would be different here. Maybe people would see past his head. Maybe they'd see his heart. But he was wrong. From the first day, people stared. Some pointed, some laughed. A few looked away quickly, pretending they hadn't noticed. He walked with his head down, not because he was ashamed, but because it was safer that way. It hurt less when you avoided the eyes that judged you. Zion was brilliant. He always came first in class. He understood things fast. He loved knowledge. But when he tried to be friends with his course mates, it never worked. They smiled at him when they needed help. Assignments, projects, exam preparation. They came to him. "Zion, you're a lifesaver." "Bro, I owe you one." But once class was over, and the laughter started in small groups. He was never invited. Zion first saw her in their programming class. Miriam. She was everything he thought was beautiful. Calm, kind-faced, soft-spoken. Her skin was dark and smooth, her eyes gentle, and her smile warm. She didn't speak often, but when she did, people listened. Zion remembered clearly. The day she first saw him, she laughed. It wasn't soft or nervous. It was loud, the kind of laugh that stays in your mind forever. She laughed, and he stood there, frozen. But strangely, instead of hating her, he admired her even more. There was something about her that pulled him in. He started writing notes, secret love letters, just a few kind words once or twice a week. He left them in her books, under her bag, near her seat. Your voice is calm like a river. You are beautiful, even on days you don't smile. Thank you for existing. Miriam would pick them up, read them, and smile. She never knew who the writer was, but the letters made her days brighter. She would tell her friends, "I think I have a secret admirer." They giggled, but she kept the notes. It was after their final year group presentation. Everyone was packing up and chatting in small groups. Zion saw Miriam standing alone near the hallway. She was holding her file, adjusting her scarf, humming softly. His heart raced. He walked over slowly, feeling like his legs were made of stone. "Hi, Miriam," he said. She turned, surprised. "Oh, Zion, hi. I wanted to say something," he began. "It's hard, but I think I should say it." She nodded slowly, listening. "I was the one who sent you those notes. All of them. I've liked you for a long time. I know I'm not like other guys, and I know you laugh at me sometimes. But even then, I still saw something beautiful in you." Miriam stared at him. Before she could speak, her friend walked in and caught the last part. "Wait, what?" her friend shouted. "Zion, you wrote love letters to her." Miriam froze. The friend burst into loud laughter. Another friend joined, then another. Soon, all of them were gathered around, laughing. One pointed at Zion's head. "Look at the size of his confidence. No wonder his head is that big." Zion didn't know when the tears came. He tried to hold them back, but they poured. His shoulders shook. His lips trembled. His eyes filled and overflowed. He turned and walked away, his sobs loud, raw, and unforgettable. The campus was quiet that evening. A few birds chirped. The wind moved gently through the trees. Zion sat alone under the old almond tree near the chapel. His books lay beside him, untouched. He held his pen loosely, staring at the darkening sky. Then he began to sing. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't for anyone. It was for his heart.
Why is the world so cruel to me? What did I do to earn this pain? I didn't choose this head or face, yet every day I'm shamed again. Even shadows in the dark reflect the scars I wear so stark. I tried to love, I wrote kind words. I hope someone would see my soul. But laughter was my only prize, and now my heart is full of holes, melodic interludes. Even my father walks away, says I'm the reason his joy is gone. He sees me as a broken curse, not the child he should lean upon. I gave my all, but it fell flat. Now it's just a lonely chat. I tried to love, I wrote kind words. I hoped someone would see my soul. The laughter was my only prize, and now my heart is full of holes. So I sing my pain into the wind, let it echo through the air.
What Zion didn't know was that Miriam had followed him. She had watched from a distance, hidden behind the chapel wall. She heard every word. She saw his tears, the way he hugged himself as he sang, and something inside her shattered. She had never known this side of him, never imagined he was carrying so much. His voice was angelic, raw, beautiful. She pulled out her phone and began to record, not out of mockery, but because she couldn't let that song disappear. She cried as she recorded. Later that night in her hostel, she locked her door, sat on her bed, and played the video over and over again. She wiped her tears and whispered, "He was the one all along." And I broke him. The night was quiet. Miriam sat in her hostel, alone. Her roommates were out. Her phone screen glowed as she stared at two videos, one of her and her friends laughing at Zion, and the other of Zion under the almond tree, singing from a place so raw it made her chest ache. She played them again. Tears slid down her face. "I was part of his pain," she whispered. She opened her video editor. Carefully, she stitched the two clips together, first the laughter, then the silence, and then his voice crying, his voice singing, his voice breaking, his voice lifting something far greater than sound, a soul reaching out. She added a simple caption. The world mocked him, but his voice still sang. "Forgive us, Zion. Tap alone in this big world." She hesitated for a second. Then she clicked post. The screen dimmed. Her eyes were sore. She laid her head on the pillow and cried herself to sleep. By the time Miriam opened her eyes the next morning, her phone was already hot in her hand. 1.2 million views, 254,000 likes, hundreds of thousands of comments. The internet had woken up to Zion's voice. Some wrote, "I don't know who he is, but I love him already." That voice, that pain, that truth. He's not alone. Shame on those who laughed at him. This young man is gold. His head, that's nothing. His heart, pure fire. Please someone find him. He deserves the world. Miriam sat up slowly. She scrolled, hand trembling. Then a repost by a verified celebrity singer. Then another. In his office, John sat behind his desk, sipping bitter black coffee. He opened his social media app, distracted by a trending hashtag. Tap alone in this big world. Curious, he clicked. The video played. He heard the laughter first. He saw them mock. And then he saw his son, Zion, his own flesh and blood, kneeling under a tree, alone, crying as he sang with the voice of a broken angel. John froze. Then he leaned forward. Then tears came. His hands dropped the phone. He covered his face. "Oh God," he whispered, "what have I done?" The words repeated in his head. "Even my father turns away, says I'm the reason his joy is gone." John cried like a man who had just met his child for the first time and didn't know how to reach him. "It wasn't his fault," he whispered shakily. "He didn't choose this head. He didn't choose this pain. Why did I let hate grow? Why did I blind myself to a gift God gave us?" He stood up, wiped his face, and for the first time in years he said his son's name aloud, softly, with love. "Zion."